Today's mainly we are going to introduce resource layer in the whole architecture. I mean, basically, what we are trying to convince you is that uh, of course, we already reviewed the different tier. I mean, front tier, client tier. Excuse me. Can you turn off your microphone? Second of all, after that, we reviewed the web tier. Of course, after that, we already reviewed the last time business tier. Now it is a resource tier. I mean, there is a not clear border between the business tier and the resource tier, because usually what we are trying to integrate with this third part of the application, or whatever the system, you are going to start from actually start from your business tier. I mean, it is possible the first candidate to integrate the system. So that's we are going to discuss, but mainly those subject we need to explain to you. What first one is those the problem. I mean, usually we are call it that challenges. So in the enterprise application system, mainly, it's all the time they face the changes, and all the time, added new function or change something, or added new business model, or upgrade something different layer, different level. So you need to come up to challenge to implement your system in uh, order to challenge a new business environment. Then also we needed to describe the definition of the integration tier of the role in the whole entire architecture system, the idea. Then also describe the enterprise integration system resource tier. Especially, we are going to talk about something very specific technique. Even we needed to give example or discuss, point out the specific technique in the Java Enterprise Edition. Of course, we will also mention C# also, I mean .NET. And then also integration technology gave there some recommendation for audience, I mean, to you. Then finally, we have mentioned about something service-oriented architecture, SOA. I mean, that's SOA, and those are the second part. We mainly focused on the other things today. Okay. So what's challenging about is, because all the system in the enterprise application, it is because enterprise system is large scale system. So you have to, you are not only applied one system. There's a dozen of the system, maybe 100 of the application work with your entire enterprise system. So that's being called distribution, right? So, but same time you want to those 100 type of the application work with you. Then same time you want to integrate the system. You need to challenge the new business requirement. So that's the reason already been distributed. Some of them is old system. Some of them is you already planning. Some of them is already using. Some of them under the development. Whatever the system, they finally they will be integrated together. They will be work with together. Then also some of them is so that's the challenges. How we can and more efficiently uh, to manage this, limit the budget to finally meet your challenges of the business requirement. So integration very important. That's the reason. How many applications, how many system used it, you still want to integrate together. You want to integrate the system, you want to integrate the exchange information. That's a simple model of the, if they are, I mean, what are you application level, you make this component, and which is if they independently separate an environment, it's possible to easier to integrate your system. Sorry. So what's it? What they provide is, what's the advantage is, if they independently deployed it in the environment, what are independently being integrated together? What's the advantages? You have a chance to reduce the reduce the reliability. I mean, you don't necessarily to rely on other system if there is a very independent or not very closed integrated. So if there is a loose coupled integration, it is very welcome in the system. Then also increase the reusability, because all the time you want to change from one to another, or maybe you need to completely you don't necessarily to create new system or new component. So it should be give a chance to reuse again. You can reuse one investment and then one application system again. This should be good for your investment, right? So in order to understand the behavior of the integration tier, you need to we are coming to give example of some specific things. That's for example in the Java Enterprise Edition, it usually has a, so that's needed to whatever the reason you intended to integrate. So industry needed to standardize. I mean, except that in the Java Enterprise Edition, if you talk about the Java Enterprise Edition provides some standards. It is a Java Enterprise Edition. It's one that connect architectures. GCI is one of the choice. It's a little bit like a loose couple that are possibility to connect the store system together. Except that all the you can possible to not only the business tier, you can possible to any layer, you can possible to integrate it. For example, in the in the controller layer, maybe in the front layer, the difference is maybe is a complexity or maybe a flexibility. So you need to choose. But basically, all the time they starting from the business tier, because business tier all the time the changing. Other tier, for example, they doesn't care what's the they involving, how's they exchanging, how they interacting, what's the security, they doesn't care. But that security is important, but basically it should be a general solution for all system. And then that's the reason there is no distinguish between the business tier and integration tier. So it is first candidate should be business tier, should be possible to integration tier. And then what we needed to integrate, basically, of course, data source need to integrate it. After then, operational system need to integrate it. Of course, finally, you need to integrate some resource, included some already infrastructure, for example, LDEV server, something like that. So start from what's the data source like? Usually we will be all application use the relational database, Oracle, MySQL, DB2, those are being called the relational database. It's also possible the non-relational database existed. File system also being called hierarchy file system is also one of the data source. XML also data source. Some database even object-oriented database. It is less used, but there existed in industry. Then also not persistent data source, like you using every day using your mobile phone data. Fade data is also possible to being recorded in the service provider. Then also message system. It's a chat system. Something, for example, WhatsApp. There is a message possible to another kind of resource. Sometimes if you want to backup, then you want to recover it, then also possible. And then another is legacy system. They provide some computational resource you all the time. Some sensor provided information also being called resource. Then operational resource being called legacy application system. For example, in the history, most enterprise application system deployed in the mainframe. It's a Unix system, but it's kind of powerful system. It is serving from the 1980 to around the 2000 year. So it's some of them are still using in the fundamental level. Some system working very well. So what you do is they integrate the system, not renew again. So that's the system still you consider to integrate it. Then another is some kind of native application or fundamental things. For example, if some of the country has some literature new created, so it's kind of fundamental things. Then you need to integrate or something you need to integrate some new function library, whatever. Then another is the ERP system. ERP system is another kind of business perspective to rapidly develop that system in the enterprise edition. It is a very powerful, but it's very expensive. That's the reason small business less use ERP, but usually it's big company, they will be tended to use ERP because that's most of the business requirement for some specific domain. They already considered all of the aspect. That's the reason. Then also as resource, it's considering the fundamental infrastructure. Usually LDAP is served all the enterprise system they existed. For example, domain, server, and the or account information. Usually they all possible to stored in the LDAP. Then it is LDAP also possible to using kind of address and name mapped together. So it is kind of also possible to integrate the GNDI, possible to use it in the Java Enterprise Edition. Then security server, usually already integrated in the this usually one company has their own security system. So included account system. So should be usually that's kind of things needed to further integrate your system, not only the opening the door, but also accessing the system, not only the one system or another system using the same criteria or same account should be very flexible. But usually, for example, if we take an example of our university, we are while you're opening the going through the gate, you have to using your student card, but when you log in the deal, you have to use another account using the email should be another account. But if you integrate together using the one system, usually it's possible. So those things you need to integrate it. But if you talk about the specific, for now, those are general idea of the integration tier resource considered. But if you give us some specific technique, for example, the Java, they has some kind of solution. For example, in the Java GDBC API and rational object rational mapping, or being called the OR map, right? Those are kind of integration to data source solution. And then some of the between system to system integration using the GMS. I mean, GMS, it's possible to synchronize integration or asynchronous integration, whatever the case. It's give the chance to loose couple the integration solution. It's GMS. And then also have as a another other hand, GCI is also is give a chance to integrate your system, playing the middle role of the integration. And then finally is a general solution for web service. Web service, not only the Java, but it's any language can be used. Inform that this if you talk about the specific technique, not Java, for example, C# for the GDBC in the Microsoft, for example, ODBC. Then also there's a OR map, also such similar technique exist in the C# or .NET. And then similar things, same GMS, like the same things exist in the C# .NET environment. It's always the same, but different naming of the technique. If you further talk about the GDBC original database, and then they has GDBC specific. They just only differences. They can give a general interface for all the old connection database, but they give a different driver. So that's driver provided by the vendor. Then this is a possible. This is the first step to abstract level of the providing the database integration GDBC. But OR map, I mean, if you talk about some specific technique, Java persistent type GPI, another level of the wrapper, the GDBC, to more close to integration level. And then it is a GDAO or ADAO is for C#. It is similar things with the GPA. And then entity is exactly same things with the Java persistent API, but only difference is Java entity is running the application server, but Java persistent API, you can run it any kind of container. For example, even entity bin can only run in the Java AGB container, for example, WebSphere, but you cannot run in the Tomcat. But it is if you implement the GPA, but it's possible to just running in the Tomcat. It's also possible. Not possible. It's true solution. Then also in terms of the database connection, usually all the database has a concurrency connection. It is a limitation of the concurrency connections. Sometimes it's limited by the license. So if you more concurrent connection database, you have to buy the different license, or more you need to pay more cost. But also possible to, from technical aspect, to implement it. It's also very different. But by the way, it's a database connection is why, because database connection very CPU consuming, and it's very expensive connection. So that's the reason usually they are come out the connection pool. So connection pool is a kind of cheap solution, also is very closely independent independent solution to specific technique. So yeah, but if you talk about the message system can enable the asynchronous, as we said, asynchronous communication between the application to application. So it is asynchronous messages can be more scalable than the RPC. You know what's the RPC is remote processing call. And then usually at the first, when you develop an application, mostly is TCP based, is being called RPC. Then one downside of RPC is there's mostly specific or some specific language, for example, specific technique. For example, you can implement RPC in the, mostly based on TCP/IP, low level protocol. So then also you have to synchronize the object. It's a binarization process. So you have to implement it the only one environment. So you can sender part and the receive part must be implemented same technique. So you only implement, limitation is you only access from C to C or C# to C# or Java to Java. And then but so that's the reason XML swap protocols coming. We will be discussing in the future. But what I'm saying is asynchronize, I mean, it's RPC is synchronized method solution, and asynchronize is using the kind of middleware application system. There's between the client and this two different application has a kind of another server, another middle layer. They can interact together. So, but there is a interaction is kind of give a chance to not immediately response. So its reliability is it's kind of arguable. I mean, there is a compromised because of that. There is no immediate response to the request is failed or success. So that's the reason. If there is a very critical business requirement, you have to use make-up with transaction to increase the reliability. So it's also been called, that's we can keep increase the if you talk about the transaction, there are also possible to you need to consider the distribute transaction. I mean, sometimes you need to consider what kind of vendor, then based on the vendor specification they provided, what kind of transaction depend on what kind of product you will use it. You need to overview. And then basically there's a two model when you're using the synchronized technique. So message model is a point-to-point or publish to subscribe. It is no difference. I mean, basically it's mechanism same, but it is different, a kind of mechanism. I mean, first one is they using the queue. I mean, what's the queue is the algorithm like first in, first out, right? And then topic is just send it to topic to, then that's it. But it's who's want to subscribe that from you can get from them. So I mean, queue is kind of care about the sequence, but topic is not care about the sequence. And then if we talk about of course, while using if you already have if you already get familiar with such kind of architecture, then you will be considering how we can use it. Usually, Java message and Java GMS programming model, they provide such kind of diagram. I mean, first what you need to, they has a connection factory, they have then after the connection you will be created, then connection, they give a session, then you will be possible to send it message, create message. That's it. And then there's another things, message drive bin. Message drive bin is kind of consumer for client side, so you can it is part of the standard for Java Enterprise Edition. So what is standard? It means you have a if you buy the enterprise application server, for example, any kind of vendor provided. So you don't necessarily to what kind of application server you can buy it. You just need to care about what kind of standard. So if they follow the Java Enterprise Edition standard, it means MDBs must be served. So what's the MDBs? They provide a kind of asynchronized message consumer. They deployed in the application server. So what you do is you can provide any kind of asynchronized consumer message from different provider. You can consume different message provider provided service. So there's a things. While you understand architecture of this asynchronized architecture, at the same time you need to consider choose the application only. Maybe just only considering the cost or service. But you don't necessarily to choose the vendor because all of the same standard. You don't need to worry. So if we talk about the advantage of MDB, I mean message drive bin, and we can simplified and implementation message consumer because there's most part already implemented. Even some part is taking care of the application container, I mean application service itself. So only things you need to configure in the application server. So most of the functionality you can care about managed by the application server. For example, life cycle of the MDB, you just need to deploy that, then you just think you can manage the life cycle in the application server. Then even you can change the destination of the message, so we can possible to configure it, and even such a advanced feature, such transaction also managed by the container level. So what you left is you just need to use it. You could just implement the simple interfaces, then just deploy it. You don't even necessary to think about it more complicated, synchronized. The feature you have to write down in your own. So that's very useful for your rapidly development application case. So all of the things what we talk about, what are the things from the integration of the data source, integration of the legacy system, integration of the fundamental infrastructure. Actually, those things also possible to provide. And if you talk about this Java, they has a possible to integrate together in the Java connector architecture. They have a chance, but the some of them is less give the less standard. For example, security management, but there also has some part. So that's the kind of things give a while you integrate application. The application while you working with the system, working with the company as a system analyst or whatever, the system manager or IT manager. You have the idea of the how should be integrate system to system. And then if you're very familiar with the one technique, for example, Java Enterprise Edition, the similar technique must be exist in the other technique. So that's first part of all of the integration of the data resource part for today. And now, if you have any question from student.
I think no questions.
No questions, teacher.
Yep. So I hope you can